Hi, Dark Side. Good to see you. I missed you too. I almost forgot how to go live. I've been working a lot of hours, like triple time. So, glad to be back. Hey, Jane. Welcome, welcome. So we'll kind of wait till everybody gets here. I'm not exactly sure how this works because I'm not seeing the normal stuff on YouTube. But, Darkside says they were just going over old videos of mine and saw this pop up. So excited. Well, I'm excited to see you guys. I was on a 3-week non-stop work thing. This is my first day off in like 17 days. Hi, Jamie. Good to see you. Okay, so once we get a group together here, I don't know how to tell who's watching other than I appreciate you guys posting. Hey, Joe. Welcome. So once we get going, we're going to address some of the things that are kind of roaming around our community. And I've kind of been through it myself in the past. I went away for 3 weeks, kind of took a breather. Brenda and Dassey was on my mind every single day, I kid you not, through these holidays. So, yeah, I had a lot of time to think at work. And when I came back, I was kind of disappointed, you guys, because a lot of truthers are fighting amongst themselves. And there's a lot of us that aren't. And I think we need to remember here, it's really a focus thing that we have going. And it's all of us working together as a team. I don't think credit matters in this game. There's absolutely zero room for ego. None. I've had ideas that I've put on paper or on Discord or something, not make it to my own video because somebody else did a video about it. I had no problem with that. I have individuals I don't particularly get along with, but when they put out a video and it's to better the cause, I can put my personal feelings aside because this is about Brendan. And I don't think any of us could bear sitting down with Brendan and being like, well, I didn't like this person, and even though I had some vital information that would have helped out the public, I was afraid that person would get the info and then call it theirs. It's not about credit, you guys. You got to get over it. And I have been in contact with locals to Calumet, locals to Manitowoc. I have phone conversations with very close friends of the family of Hodgestettlers, Averys, Botwells, and they're not liking this. They're just starting to pull together and actually started feeling like there's a safety net to come to, and we need to be all on the same page. So we need to get past any silliness, because that's what it is. This whole, I need my name out there. Well, is your name really Wishbone? You know, or is your name really Bark at the Moon? Or is your name really Rubber Ducky? No, it's this isn't about that. We're faceless, we're nameless. Yeah, I'm showing my face today because I really want to connect with you so that you understand. You, to me, where you are. We're here to get Brendan Dassey home. We're here to expose the corruption. We're here to work with Zellner and get Stephen free. And it's not just them. There's others in this situation, locals, that are coming forward with crimes against their families. And they have to be able to know that we're united and we stand together. So that's a big deal to me. I'm going to just talk a few seconds more about it because it's not that I want to draw attention to it. I just want to draw attention. The message that one specific local told me that has been going and talking to other victim families. which is huge, you guys. This means they're coming together. Um, this individual stated to me that they're just getting to where they feel like they can trust coming forward, and now they're worrying who to trust. So let's get past this, because we're making history ourselves and uncovering corruption on such a broad scale, not just the Avery case, but wrongful conviction. We're making waves with the death penalty so that people understand that inhumane treatment is not something we want to accept. And we're bringing light to, to protect our children more. And that's what we're here to do. We're here for awareness as to wake up, America. I'm not just going to roll over and take it. And in the words of George Carlin, the last thing I'm going to trust is our government at this point. Okay? God rest his soul. So, okay, I'm going to jump over to chat for a few minutes because I missed you all so much. I just wanted to get the top of that out of the way, and feel free to comment. I just want us to be one united front. It doesn't matter who brought up the details, where, when, whatever. If they're the truth, it needs to be out there to help Brendan and Stephen, period. That's it. That's all I got to say. Kick your ego to the door because there's no room. All right, let's see who we got here. Hey, Lynette and Gloria. Let's see. You wouldn't be referring to RB. I don't know who RB is. Dark Side of the Moon. I agree. Lynette says, yep. Referring to RB. I don't know. I'm not really referring to anyone. I'm simply saying, if you find yourself... Okay, here we go. So I thought it would be great to bring a lot of us together, and I created a Discord channel. And it was called The Puddle. And then I had another room that was dedicated to those that were actually researching more than chatting. And it became babysitting. We weren't getting to focus on the case because it was, I was in there trying to do my thing and create the videos and work with researchers and stuff. But I began to moderate more than I was researching, and it was silly stuff. It was he said, she said, I found it first, blah, 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 blah. And when I got mad and I told them all, I told everybody, I'm like, this is absolutely ridiculous. We don't want to be just trusting people because they say this and stuff. We need documentation. I don't want to get into the details, but it was babysitting. It was a lot of bickering. So I thought about the name of the channel, Discord. Well, that's exactly what I got. A lot of Discord. And it runs 24/7. So it started taking up so much of my time. There was no time left for my focus. And I noticed my work was suffering and my home was suffering. My family was actually suffering. And what do you get in it in the end? Because if you're not working on the case and you're just moderating people that are talking amongst themselves that don't like each other, or somebody offended someone, you're not really accomplishing anything. So I just walked away one day, just was like, gone. And I can honestly say it's much healthier to work in a large group like this, where we have all the same goal. And I appreciate that we all do, because we do. And I think it's funny that we're called truthers and guilters are called guilters. Well, what are we guilty of? The truth? And what are they guilty of? Martha made it. Hey, Martha, good to see you. Hey, Bean Green. Good to see you. Thank you. Let's see, who did I miss here? Somebody said Richard Boyd. Yeah, he sends me a lot of emails. I know he's working on a case of a sexual assault allegedly on a very young woman. I've been at work and I haven't been able to watch a lot of the videos, but I plan on doing that in my next 3 days. It sounds very interesting. I'm not exactly sure what's all going on there, but I do know he's been putting some video stuff out there. Yeah, he's been bashing truthers. I kind of get where Grandpa's coming from, because in a way, he's frustrated that we're not getting somewhere, I think, in his way. I get where he's coming from, that we all know the truth, that the state lied and we need to move forward. We need to get on with the show. So what is our next step? How do we start digging deeper? Well, I think we've got to broaden the horizons here a little bit. And when you start looking at the locals, it's not just their story. It's not just Stephen Avery, that the corruption runs really deep. And it seems to be very politically orientated from the county sheriff's department, and goes back into the 70s. And so what is it that why was Stephen Avery targeted? Now, one thing I will say, I think there is an underlying reason, but $36 million, what does that buy? If you're the top dog, I put this out on Twitter, if you're the top dog, and you kind of gotten bad, not kind of, but you are a bad dog, kind of rabid, what are you going to teach your puppies? What hoops do your puppies got to jump through to rise to your standard of ranking? When you look at Kusurek and such, it's really scary. Now, he's the sheriff at the time of Stephen Avery's first arrest. And then when you look at Couchet, his chief detective at the time, the depositions that were given in 2005, right before this all goes down with the missing girl of Teresa Halbach, Couchet starts stepping forward that Kusurek was showing great displeasure to him. And Kusurek starts kind of hinting that there's something not quite right. He keeps saying, where'd the hair come from? Where'd the hair come from? Something's not quite making sense there with Couchet, the chief. There's a falling out. And then Couchet ends up dying of a heart attack right away. How many times are we going to have a coincidence? I think it was Paul Capaldi. Tip my hat off to him. Amazing gentleman. Him and Eric Cozier at this every single day. I just commend them very much. And hats off to you both. You definitely deserve that. Since when do coincidences form patterns, is what Paul Capaldi asked on Twitter to Michael Griesbach. And that has stuck in my mind for a long time. So, hey John. We're all doing good, I think. Everybody have a great holiday. Hey Janie. So, just to kind of jump around a little bit in thought, you guys, any new news you want to talk about? I kind of saw some stuff on Twitter. Thought it was interesting that there was a poll that went out, and it was about the bones, and 58% of the people felt the Halbachs had something to do with this setup. 58, the majority, feel that the Halbachs had something directly to do with the setting up of the bones and Stephen Avery. Come a long ways, huh? 4 or 5 years ago to think on that, we were so blinded that we didn't even have victimology done. None. We bought everything that was said in the trial about Teresa. What have we learned in 5 years about Teresa? What are come on you guys, help me out here. What are some of the beliefs that you originally had about the victim in this case that have either been proven wrong or you feel are wrong? What changes have we had to mentally adjust to after more information came forward? So let's see what you guys have. I know there's quite a bit of delay on YouTube, so let's see. Well, Abby says hi from Wales in the UK. Managed to catch a live one. Happy New Year. I totally agree that something is not right with the family. Yeah, while we're waiting on people to kind of kick in. Yeah, the phone calls are very telling, Gloria. they definitely had to have known something more. um, I find it interesting, and we've all pointed this out. I mean, I'm just kicking around old stuff here, but their emotional reaction is very telling in that it's like it's a past event to them, or they're not emotionally connected, into the fact that we don't even see the remnants of swollen eyes, running red noses. Everybody seems very well put together, like they're going to a day of work when they come to the trial. They'll lean forward, they'll pose with their chin, they'll pose and listen. Well, meanwhile, the state of Wisconsin is describing the murder of their daughter in such a heinous way that even as a disconnected viewer, you're not even part of it, and it's years later we can barely even stomach the thought of what the state's implying happened. So I find that extremely telling, that it wasn't just once caught on camera, but historically, we didn't see a tear. When did we ever see a tear from a Halbach? One tear. One. Dark Side says she agrees. Hey, Sean. Hey, good to see you. Yeah, why would Karen Halbach want to talk to Jody? That's something new to me. That's a great question. Yeah, Karen Halbach's missing person. I read a couple weeks ago, and here we go. Credit's not important, and I don't remember who posted it. So if it was you, lace up your shoes. You did a good job. There you go. All right, so I read a couple weeks ago something to the effect of, when the missing persons call was made by Karen Halbach, she didn't know Teresa Halbach's license plate number. So that was early on. And then we get this call, supposedly on the 3rd, where Colburn is calling on the Spanish-speaking hotline to verify the license plate number. And they were like, well, where'd you get the number from? I'm sure some computer things could have been run. I get what she's saying. But it does kind of make you think a little bit, like, what's going on here? Why is he running it? And now he's got this lawsuit. Netflix said, why don't you just drop it, trying to let him off the hook. No, he's not going to drop it. Really? Julie Lip brought up a great point just now on chat here. And that was when me and the girls, some of the other researchers, went over to Teresa Halbach's gravesite to pay our respects and to share the gravesite with you guys. There were no flowers. It was weird because I had seen the gravesite in photographs online, and it looked very, very abandoned and weathered and faded. Everything was old and kind of like creepy, to be honest. And so I was very much looking forward to seeing the gravesite now, because I thought it must have been caught at the dead of winter. I had seen snow in the picture. Well, we were going in the summer, so I expected to see some greenery, flowers, plants, something. And it was the same years later. It's not funny. It was the same, like untouched almost. It was like staged. It felt weird. It felt empty. It felt vacant. It didn't feel right at all. Oh, let's see. Yeah, her brother mourned for Eamon's trying to say brother. It came out birthday, but her brother mourned for, said it might take 2 days to get over it. And there's also Tom Pierce talked about her in the past tense when they were just looking for her, saying she was and so forth. Always past tense, a lot past tense. Her mother talked of her in past tense. Her brother talked of her in past tense. 3 people talking in past tense of someone while she's just missing. Kind of strikes you as strange. And then it also is strange how the cop that calls in that's off duty or whatever, and the lady says, yeah, there were 2 of them today, and she's referring to dead bodies. Who are the 2 girls, you know? You know, you might be right, Jamie. She says, Andrew Colburn's, or he says, I'm not sure which, AC is going to spill the beans when he's on the stand, when he's being cross-examined. It's very possible that he's going to use this to clear his conscience. Even says Pet Cemetery, Stephen King. Really, honestly, it was creepy. There just was not... It's directly across the street from a factory that's running, and it's a very short jog right to their front door. It's on a very small lot, and there's one side of more modern graves, very small, and on the other side of Teresa Halbach's cemetery, where she was laid to rest, supposedly, allegedly at this point, was just old stones, some of them like 1850s, 1840s, and they were really unique. The feel of it was staged, I kid you not. It doesn't seem real. Thank you, Rachel. Happy birthday. I just got tongue-tied there. Happy New Year to you, too. Yeah, Abby points out that the mother didn't know if the daughter had any scars, piercings, or tattoos. That is strange. Dark says that she thinks that she was buried at her family farm. Matthew asks, what kind of relationship did Pam of God have with the Halbach family besides being related? None that I know of. I mean, I don't know how better to answer that. There's the only relationship connected to the Halbachs is that they are cousins. She was also cousins with Pogel. And so Teresa and Pogel were cousins. It's quite interesting that Calumet handles this with them being related to the murdered victim. The sheriff was directly related. Gloria says, do we have Stephen Avery and Castilla when they just found the car? How'd they know it was that Avery? How'd they know it wasn't somebody that ditched it at a junkyard, a random junkyard? Jane says, yes, Kess Road pics, very telling. Well, there's more of a crime scene there. It's exactly what you see in other crime scenes. It's taped off. It's frozen, literally, evidentially frozen, which is what is to be expected. They have the crime lab, the mobile crime lab down there, fire truck down there, the local ambulances down there. You have what appears to be FBI down there. You definitely have investigators down there, including Deering. DOJ is down there. DCI is down there. It's being treated like the true crime scene. And you have Siders, who is the one finding all the electronics. He is on the roster with Mike Bushman the entire 2 days there. And Mike Bushman is on the radio saying he's been at Cuss Road that time. And he's saying that they found stuff. So, I mean, it doesn't take an elementary first grader to put the scene together. They found stuff down on Cuss Road. What my next question is, what did they find? Was it planted there? I mean, they found so much on the 3rd that they've got it documented that her dark green RAV4 was seized, and that it's Teresa Halbach's. And then the plates are transferred over to the RAV4. Did somebody trick the police? Did somebody take a dark green RAV4 that I mean, really, honestly, that'd be kind of trippy if they all fell for it and they were like, we have Teresa's RAV4, and then they run the VIN number and it doesn't match. And so the killer has played with them. Sorry, guys, that's normally my time to go to work. I mean, I'm just throwing things out there because I do feel that the police not only were on board, but I'm not saying the entire community, but if there's one or two bad cops from that have this grudge, chip on the shoulder kind of thing, they may have pulled this off and everybody else just assumed it was Avery and became a working targeting of Avery. So let's see, can I share the link through? Oh, I can't share the link. Carol, we have to approve links, but if you post it, it'll replay. I think I'll be able to approve it. Let me see. Can I approve it now? There we go. I got it. Got it for you, Carol. It'll be, or let's see, Gloria. Okay, I lost who said that. Oh, yeah, Carol. Okay. It's out there, Carol. Why was Karen Halbach asked for Teresa's blood type? Well, I think that is an actual standard thing of if they suspect that there could be foul play, or if they got on to where there was some blood, you know, they would want to test it and know if it matched. Jamie's talking about evidence in CX and A23 hold a lot to this case also. Absolutely. These are both independently blood samples that, remain a mystery to us all. And it could hold the key as to, if Zillner knows more on those blood stains, it could hold the key as to why she suspects who she does in this case. And we just don't have enough of the details because basically Culhane made it so that it wasn't available. Now, interesting enough, the bloody handprint on the back of this RAV4 that's at the, I'll go with you guys and say State Crime Lab, even though I don't think that is. That photograph shows ample enough sample there to continue to do DNA tests all day long. I don't care who you are. So to this day, we should be able to test whose bloody handprint is on the back of that RAV. And it's important because, first of all, it's supposedly, allegedly a murdered victim's car. And there's supposed to be allegedly blood in the RAV4, and yet the only way to get that blood in the back where the cargo is would be to lift that hatch door handle, and that's where this handprint is. So I believe that's A23, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody. But to not just go retest that today, right now, have we gotten that stupid that common sense has been kicked out the door? Do we really need to have 5 years of argument over whether we want to know the truth or not? It's really dumb. The judicial system is broken. It's not that it's not fixable. It's just that right now people feel hopeless and helpless. And so we've just got to keep pushing ahead. And to do that, we have to show one united thought. And that is fix the judicial system, that it works in a fair manner. Everybody is entitled, according to the Constitution, to a fair jury of their peers. And that means fair. So, Abby says, I read back when the first ma'am came out, and there was a bit more online than about the Halbachs. Thomas Halbach's wife died in Florida, and then Teresa, dad died there too. Oh yeah. There's grandmas that have, there's a lot of Halbachs that die on vacation in Florida, interesting enough. If you want to kind of find yourself a rabbit hole, look that up. Now, interesting enough, Florida happens to be the one state in the United States that seals the death records, even to insurance companies, doesn't allow any death records to be transferred except by the next of kin. So that would go spouse or a parent. Just saying. Abby says, I've been searching for so long to find this information. If that is not suspicious, if true, I don't know what is. Also, why do a trust fund 2 months before, and who's paying out to who? Dark Side of the Moon says, yeah, I read someone's comments asking why Tim Halbach was looking to sue Stephen before the murder. Does anyone know anything about this, if it's true or not? Now, I hadn't heard that, but, that information needs to be looked at. Is that something that we can get some backing to? Was it possible Halbachs were looking to sue Stephen Avery prior to the murder? That would be a big deal. So if there's any truth to that, I encourage the people that have that information to provide source for us so that we can get on with that. Let's see. Kevin Story says, I was looking at Cuss Road photos. To me, there was a big fire in the middle. It would not surprise me if TH, RAV4, was burnt out there and she was in it. They seem to be trying to hide the burnt area. It's interesting. There's a parked car there later, and it doesn't look like there's a scorched mark there. But I'm wondering, was a parked car there prior? And then we're looking at the next photos or the time after the scorched mark. I'm not sure. Did they stage a situation to catch the flyover so that it looked like a car was there and nothing's going on, and then the secondary flyover actually caught accidentally the actual burning and disposal? I don't know. I do know that the more we look at Cuss Road, the warmer I feel like we're playing on the hot potato game. The burn barrels are hot down there, I'm telling you. There's no doubt in my mind. They basically switched up the barrels from Cuss Road to Stevens. And you can sit there and say, well, this barrel matches that barrel. It doesn't matter. We're a barrel short. We should have 7 barrels. There's 6 in evidence. You tell me where the other one went. And I'll bet you it was the innocent barrel, which was Stephen Avery's. They framed him. We know it. They transferred stuff. If you don't believe me, you can get it right out of John Ertle's mouth. He said the reason that they didn't photograph the area at Steve Avery's pit was because they usually do not document an altered scene. So, yeah, it was altered. Where was it altered from? We have all rights to believe at this point that Cuss Road holds the evidence that says, yes, this information came from there. We've looked at how many deputies lists on the back that have the words of tire tracks 5 to 8 feet apart or 5 to 10 feet apart, camera, license plate. We've looked at the pictures. They're there in all hours of the night. They got what appears to be some sort of a small body bag on the side there with a stump. And yet they're talking about a shallow burial grave. It's all right there. It's being treated like the real crime scene. Okay, I tried, and yes, that is very true. Let's see what Abby's talking about. Blah, 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 blah. If Stephen's DNA was left on the hood latch, don't you think the next person opening the hood latch would have left some touch DNA, or does SA have Pac-Man DNA and everybody else gets gobbled up? I don't know, Martha. I find it interesting that he's such a, he's like, how do I put it? World record shedder. He can shed enough DNA, it looks like he licked or spit on something by just touching. Hey, Washington, D.C. is calling me. Ignore. They're probably telling me, you are not to do more videos of public awareness. Let's see. Jamie says, I heard CB Ant also was found in Rannoch Court, also dead. Yes. Her name was Deb Sakawati, and she was dating Tom Tadich. No. Yes. Tom Tadich. Yeah. Tom Tadich. It's a small world. Now, according to the reports, the gentleman that was arrested and wrongfully convicted was Fensel, and they found a Ziploc baggie of her stuff by a water stream where he said Fensel said he found it in his car and threw it out because he didn't know what to do about it. But if you really dig into that case, it's actually very similar to a frame job that Stephen Avery went through, is what Fensel went through. So Deb Sakawati was a waitress, and she was found in a Redont quarry, face down, and had been bludgeoned to death but not sexually assaulted. And she was related to Carmen Botwell by being her aunt. And there's a lot to that case when you look at who all was doing what at the time. Joseph Sakawati was running for sheriff and against, I believe, Kusurik. Yeah, so if you really want to dig in, you can start seeing that the same name pops up from Carmen Botwell's death time frame to Deb Sakawati's. The same names keep coming up. All right, we'll show that. I don't even know why it flagged hi, Miss Piggy. Maybe because they felt it was a commercial for Muppets or something. I don't know. YouTube's gotten kind of different. Also, when did they die? Battery was replaced and never reconnected. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, it seems like an altered scene. The RAV does and everything. I mean, they got a... It's even weird, like there's a can of Fix-It flat, but it's not used and it's sticking out from under. Oh, I'm buffering. Sorry, guys. Hopefully it'll fix. The whole scene on the RAV4 isn't making sense. Her dashboard's missing all the screws. We know the killer isn't going to take the time to remove the screws from the dashboard. The seats are all buckled up, you know, not sitting flush and proper. And we have the broken parking light from the front of the car underneath the seat. That doesn't make sense. There's no pools of blood like Kratz lied to everybody. And we've got a trickle of blood from Stephen purposely it planted in certain locations. And there are so many questions. You know, people say, Gilters, well, how do you explain the blood in the RAV? Well, there wasn't blood in the RAV until the 6th, so how do you explain that? Let's see, what else do we have? What is that? Scott Tadich's family? Yes, they are related somehow, I would imagine, because the Tadich name in that area are just like anybody in this town. Are you serious? Everybody's related in that town. I'm not even going to go there. I'm not even. Lynette says lots of ghosts walking around. Yeah. Ashir, what did Ashir? Very similar case. Yeah, very similar case with Fensel. Abby says more like devils walking around with the ghosts, Lynette. Isn't that true? I mean, how many... What'd you guys think about the Terry Halbach thing? I mean, here this guy is in 2005 found. Now, he's directly related to the Halbachs. Forgive me, my nose has... I have a little cold. I don't know if you can tell. So I'm going to turn my back and blow my nose. My apologies. So Terry Halbach supposedly is on some bridge, and his phones a friend. The friend said he heard Terry Halbach say the name of a bridge, and then he heard water splash. They don't find the body till 2005, like 5 months before we go through all this with Teresa Halbach. Really? They needed it to be, I mean, to pull this off, if this entire event is staged, let's play this game for a minute. Just let your mind wander with me. They would need some type of bone that wouldn't really be taken serious because you wouldn't want to test it. It wouldn't match biologically. So you just want to ferment and give the perception of a female victim. So you have a pelvic bone that would have to disappear magically somehow. But if all you have is actually the connection family-wise, genetically, is to a male victim, why not just borrow from Terry Halbach? They just found his bones. It's interesting that you have Uyghur and Fassbender over there asking Karen Halbach in 2000 or February 2005, which is strange. It says 2006 in both cases, which is weird. But, or no, it says 2005. It should say 2006, but it's asking, does she have any other deceased relatives? And she only focuses on the females. But that's not what they asked her. The investigator said, do you have any other dead relatives? And she talks about nieces, and she talks about aunts, and she talks about her mother, and then her own children. But she never answers if she has male relatives that have been recently deceased, even though Terry Halbach's bones had been just found. So, food for thought. Miss Piggy says, answers are at Cuss Road. Yep, I agree. Let's keep going here. All support for Stephen Avery all the way from Saudi Arabia. Thank you. I'm going to just tear this name up because I don't know how to say it. Mazoun Mu. I hope I did you justice. I'm sorry if I didn't. Miss Picky says the RAV4 is one of the biggest mysteries along with Cuss Road, Corey, and 147. She nailed it totally. Abby says, have a look at the pictures of the tail light under the seat. There appears to be no screws in the seat. You're right there. And Abby, also, there's pictures where they've got the front passenger door wide open. And if you look, the dash has got screws missing. The screws are missing out of the vehicle. Why? Why are the screws? We know the killer did not take the time to dismantle all these things. Is this basically a salvaged car? Is that why we have a key that doesn't belong to the victim at all? I mean, is this just a salvaged RAV? Did they actually find the real RAV, which they got on paper seized RAV4 dark green on 11/3, and it was nowhere near Avery's, and so that's not going to work for King Kratz's little perverted story that he's going to, brainwash all the public with to imply that Brendan Dassey raped and killed and murdered this poor girl with Stephen in Stephen's bedroom when there's zero DNA or scientific proof that that ever could have happened. I just let my dogs in, so you might hear them like doing all their normal little stuff. Carol says, oh nuts, I did it again trying to post the newspaper link to Terry Halbach. It's okay, Carol. We've got patience. We're all human. Darkside says, I find that narcotic cop being there involved is strange. That narcotic cop, there are honestly... Okay, let's talk about... Oh, they found my peanut butter and jelly plate and the dogs are licking it. Let's talk about Christine Rudy. She's pregnant, 6 months pregnant, Jetta Winter, same time frame as Teresa Halbach. Same time frame. They're 12 days, not even 12 days apart. All right. She has a light winter jacket on and a pair of tennis shoes, and she's 6 months pregnant. She doesn't even pull in investigators for 20 some days. They don't even take it serious. Yet we've got flyovers, dogs, the popcorn brigade with King Kratz and Fallon and all these people on a missing girl that's 25 years old that they don't even know for sure that she's dead, and they're already talking in past tense from the family standpoint. So yeah, there's narcotics investigators blanketing the property. There's FBI involved in it. My dog needs up because she's 9 years old and I'm her elevator. Let's see here. So Graham Moss brought up a question I have because, like I said, I've been gone for 3 weeks, basically living at work. I'm in healthcare, and we had staff emergencies of appendicitis and some other stuff, so I've been pulling triples. But what's with the golf cart? I know I saw some pictures of the golf cart where it had been repainted. It was barbs. It didn't have a roof. How is that in correlation? Somebody bring us up to speed on that if you would. Miss Piggy says KH, MH, and TP. So we're talking about Karen Halbach, Mike Halbach, the brother, Karen the mother, and Tom Pierce, her boss. Speak of Teresa Halbach in the past tense when she is a missing person. Indeed. Matt says, isn't it possible that Cuss Road is another ruse? It takes away 95% of the officials off the Avery salvage and allows Scott and Ryan to move around freely. You know, it makes you wonder if that's why it was staged. Maybe that's why we have 2 events. The first event would be the real finding, and then they just secretly go plant that over at the Averys. And then the second time is staged and in control of finding basically nothingness, and that's when they call in the Calvary. So that would have, the second time when they're calling in the Calvary, that would leave a window of the Averys being unprotected, and it would leave it open to the suspects to plant the stuff that had been found on the first time around. I'm not even sure that made sense to me. But, so 2 events. The first time, the stuff is actually found on Cuss Road. Then they restage it. While the restaging is happening, suspects are given or are told to plant the actual original stuff over on Avery's while the distraction happens on the staged event of Cuss Road. That could be why we have the scorch mark. Then we don't have the scorch mark. Maybe we don't have the scorch mark on the original event. Maybe they scorched the road, or maybe that's tar, or whatever that black spot is after the fact of them. I mean, did they burn something there? Was it the car? Was she in it? I don't know. I have no idea. Did they burn something? Did they pave it? Something happened. Ashira says, I also just learned that on the Casso, it is documented the famous key find November 8th compared to another document that explained it was found on November 7th. Is that why we have 2 different scenes on the evidentiary photos? To where this is the situation and this is the situation. You know, you look at it and this isn't moved, but now this is moved. The bookcase is full, the bookcase is empty, blah, blah, blah. You look at the license plate. Well, if it's found folded in 3s, why is it photographed wide open? In situ photos weren't done. Or if they were, which I'm sure they were, we're not privy to them. So Jamie says, Sherry Culhane has a lot of dirty fingers in this case too. I believe she is one of KK's eyes. Or, you know, who's above King Kratz, really? Because, you know, he's not the puppet master. He's simply a puppet, and a sick one at that, but he's a puppet. One of the brown-nosing puppets, I believe. And look how they handle him. They keep him in line. As soon as he starts wanting to get all mouthy and stuff, they really shut him down, and then he gets quiet. And then he gets nosy and he starts getting in here and saying stuff that's going to get everybody in trouble. And I believe they basically tell him to shut the up. I beat myself. Okay. Hi from County Durham, UK. CO Durham. What does CO mean? I'm kind of dumb that way. Sorry, Buller Boy. Good to have you along for the journey today. Matthew says they also assigned Bushman, who would be the best suited at creating a diversion for the scent dogs, as this is an area of expertise for him, especially if they are actually just, He shows up at 4 o'clock in the morning according to a report. But DCI doesn't get there till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So what was he doing for 12 hours down on Gus with ciders? Is it the hidden Easter egg? Is it I hide the eggs and I point them out later? I don't know. But it makes you very suspicious when you see him down there at 4 o'clock in the morning. And he knows dogs like no one else. He's been part of the canine unit and is retired. It's just unfathomable what could have taken place. Yes, Miss Piggy, did I get to watch Mind Shock's new episode in their Stephen Avery podcast? What do you think about the theory of RH driving the Rav away from TH apartment and putting his bike in the back of the Rav? I don't know. I gotta kind of think about it for a while. I'm open to anything at this point that makes actual sense, and to looking to see if there's evidence to support such. I find it interesting that when the Rav is seized and the paperwork is done on it, that Ryan Hilligas's name is mentioned as an honorable mention in the report on the RAV4. It's like he has some sort of connection to the RAV4 that I'm not quite understanding. I mean, why put his name down on that RAV4's paperwork? He isn't the one that found the RAV4, is he? Right? I mean, why else would they honorable mention him in the report where they're seizing the RAV4? It's just crazy. So I think Mind Shock's doing an excellent job. I look forward to every time they post. They're doing a good job of being real, and they're not asking for every little document to be credited. They're just like going with it and saying, I read this in People, or whatever. I think they're doing a fantastic job. And anybody that's sharing awareness, just keep doing it. It's important that, we remain very cautious as to our source material, and so that we are providing that if possible. But there are times when we just want to talk. That's one thing I am doing. I'm building a community called No Crime, No Time Community. And along with work and so forth, I'm expecting to roll this out in the middle of February. And No Crime, No Time Community is basically about all these wrongfully convicted individuals that, Innocent Project is backing, we're backing, and we've looked into enough to know, for God's sake, one guy has something like 6 witnesses that he was eating spaghetti at the time of the murder in front of them in his own home, and he's behind bars for the murder. I mean, it's just not making sense. There are a lot of locals right now that are coming together. They're talking about their cases together all over the place, and that's one wave of good news. We need to pull together as a community and back them 100% and give them voices. And we can only do that if we reunite and get along. So, otherwise, go explain to Brendan Dassey why you're holding up the program here, okay? So, okay. Miss Picky says Cuss Road wasn't staged to distract due to cadaver dogs never hitting Stephen's trailer garage and burn pit, and nothing documented on Cuss Road. Dogs sent away. Yeah, that's really telling, isn't it? Miss Piggy's got such a good point. So the dogs were hitting down there. That doesn't do the state any good for us to know that there's a crime scene down there, that the dogs are basically saying there's a cadaver down here, or that this is where a cadaver was. Yes, we can get some false positives in the business when you listen to the dog trainers and so forth, but when you're getting the dogs and you look at the tracks, they're layering on top of each other, and they're going to Cuss Road. Now, we don't know exactly what took place on Cuss Road, but I do believe it had to do a lot with the victim we're dealing with because of the dogs. So, Abby says Ryan Hilligas had some sort of connection with everything in this case. Oh, yeah. And 90% or better of all homicides of females, the first person suspected is usually the significant other. And Wisconsin skips that step. I mean, I'm just speechless. I don't even know what to say there. Rachel makes a good point, and I'm going to add to it. She says, I don't think he found, I think he had it because she went home that night. Yeah, he remembers in a cowgirl outfit. There's a rumor of a party going on that night. And he went to the New York Times and had stated that the last time he saw the victim, she was wearing a cowgirl outfit. So, you know, why'd you lie to about the insurance company and her making that call when there's no call placed to the insurance company whatsoever, saying that the damage was already there and she chose to spend the money? That doesn't work. He's impeached by several other people, many different people, including Stephen Avery, including all the other people that saw the vehicle that day. No one reported there was any damage on that vehicle. So why is he the only one that's trying to make it sound like that damage was already there? Abby says talking is very good. Yes, it is. It helps us kind of work through some things, and I appreciate it a lot. I think the nicest thing about No Crime, No Time community is I found a superb file sharing, it's called. Now, members will be able to upload files and name files, and so if you happen to be working on a wrongfully convicted case or a case that you want someone to look at, you will be able to name your own folder as a member and upload all the court documents. And that way public can look at it and get behind your cause and try to get more public awareness on that. And the rest of those that don't want to be a member can basically access all the documents 100% and download. It's just that I want the ones that put a little skin in the game before we have them creating folders and so forth. I don't want guilters flooding our system, trolls flooding our system. So it'll be $1 a month to be able to upload your documents if you go annual, and I think it's $2 a month if you just go month to month pay. But it will be a very good place for us to share information, as well as the videos will be transferring over there. That's where it'll be. And I'll have the address closer to the beginning of February than I do now. The site is at, I think, 40% finished. There's a few kind of cool things I want to tack on. You can actually guide your own, how do I put it? You can comment on there like you do on this chat. So that's kind of neat. You get to have interaction like we do here. You can post comments like you do on the YouTube. My Twitter will be connected directly to there. So will yours, actually. If you become a member, you can tweet right from there. So it'll be quite good atmosphere. And the setting is all about revealing the information fairly. So it's all court documents, whether they're this witness or that witness or whatever. And that way people can read the documents themselves and come to their own conclusion. I think it's good that we remain directly connected to source material. Another elevator ride section. Okay, let's see. Let's get over here. Abby says he even moved her into her home straight away. How did her parents not say something? I would have been devastated if my daughter's ex gave police a vibrator and 7 pairs of used panties. I'm going to make a correction, Abby, because it wasn't used panties, not 7. They actually took 4 pair of clean underwear. Why? I'm scared to know. They did badger, and that's the word I'm going to use. In my opinion, it was badgering Brendan for what color her underwear were for many different times and for lengthy time frames. And you have to wonder if he would have said the word purple and they had purple, what their plans were. I'm not going to baby it. I think that Fassbender and Wiegert were in it to win it. And when I say win it, at all cost. You know, that whole, the boss of something he wants us to do was kind of like a mafia thing to say. And you have to wonder, who's the boss and what does he want him to do? Is it Kasurek? I mean, he's got Bushman back on the scene, in my opinion, to make sure that things are still handled from that time frame that he was in. I mean, it's just, he had more pull than we are seeing on the surface. Grandma says, and by the way, good to see you, Graham. Why did KK give RH a false alibi? Well, to protect him, of course. If anybody else is thought to be a serious suspect, then this whole case gets real shaky. And so the state has to absolutely, it's like in their mind, there's no going back now. They're just clawing at the ground trying to figure out what to do. And I think KK goes off like a loose cannon a lot, and he gets reeled back in, and that's why we get, for lack of better words, radio silence, and then probably threatened to shut up. And then he can't take it anymore. He runs his mouth, and he says ludicrous stuff. In my opinion, he is so unethical that he's going to continue with his sadistic lies, and he's going to be what I would call a distraction. I think that's what King Kratz is, and a very dangerous distraction. I don't waste a lot of time on King Kratz, even though I suspect that he is numerous of names on here, including I think it's Porky the Pork or something like that. I don't give him a lot of time because he's meaningless to me. He did a shit job. He's a shit person, and I don't want nothing to do with him. So, Chloe says, if TH went back home and RH saw her a cow outfit, why did her phone stop pinging by Cuss Road on the 31st after leaving ASY? Yeah, that's a big question, that everybody's had. Maybe he met her there and stomped her phone out and made sure that was the last place her phone worked, and then drug her back home. Maybe he killed her right there. Who knows? Maybe she went there to change into her cowgirl outfit and was just going to go straight to a party, and he was waiting there because he'd been following her. I don't know. But maybe he didn't. Maybe she didn't go back home. Maybe she went straight to Cuss Road to get her next instructions. Maybe she's DEA. I mean, look at the things that we're finding out. So Tom Pierce says that Teresa knew ahead of time that was going to be her last day, and then she was never heard from again. How convenient. You know exactly the day you're no longer going to be working at that job. Apparently she was going to quit earlier. And she didn't want to do the job anymore. And then allegedly Auto Trader talked her into it and said, do one more job, Steve Avery's. Again, coincidental that she went missing? I know I sound like Mind Shock because I just watched their program. They did a magnificent job of pointing out the obvious, that obviously there's some information here that we're not quite factoring in, and that it seems with the trust fund being set up 2 months prior, I read another statement where it stated that there was no transmission between Auto Trader and Teresa until September of 2005, which is the month prior to her going missing. So she's new to the job. She's leaving the job. She doesn't want to go anywhere else. She wants to be done, and she's talked into one last job. We have Kathy Williford, DOJ agent, doing the job before her on Steve Avery's route. We have set up crime scene. I mean, what are we boiling this down to? Were they just basically setting him up? Did they just... I mean, honestly, answer me this, you guys. Did the mastermind boss that wanted to do the change of plans, did he come up with this idea to fake a murder so that you could never unprove it? Did he come up with some female bones, unrelated, just a pelvic bone, that's all he needed, and then get some DNA from possibly another murdered victim the year before that they found that year, and say, hey, we're going to fake a murder, and we're going to use the tibia because that'll give the FBI the mitochondrial DNA that they're directly related to Karen Halbach. And did they basically use the pelvic bone that we can't test from Carmen Botwell that maybe Michael Bushman probably brought down at 4 o'clock in the morning on Cuss Road? Did he reburn that pelvic bone right there so it didn't look like it came from the crematory? I don't know. Maybe burnt it right there in the road. That's a scorch mark. Maybe they paved over it. Who knows? But it's boiling down to Cuss Road. Michael Bushman was down there most of the time. Siders was down there. They're the ones that found the electronics that are supposedly from Stephen Avery's. You got Matuzik, who's apparently running around with a barrel of Stephen Avery's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and loses the barrel, and all of a sudden he grabs a different barrel. Now this one's Steve Avery's. You got King Kratz saying, yeah, bring that barrel back that we took and that we brought back and that we... Yeah. We got proof of barrel switching right there. Right in King Kratz's own statement, he tells it all. Right in Len Kaczynski's statements, we have body, measurements, dig site. What do you have with Cuss Road? Dig site, shallow grave, measurements. You got the state patrol down there. GPS, latitude, longitude of all this. It's a crime scene. Makes it sound like basically they found a crime scene down on Cuss Road. So. Yeah, I'm really worried about this Terry Halbach because of the fact that, you know, all that's heard on that phone call is him say the name of the bridge and then a splash of water, and he was never heard from again. It's not quite a year before Teresa Halbach goes missing. Then, 2005, I believe it's like August or September, I can't remember the month, they find his bones. What? All his bones wash up at the same place? I mean, if he jumped off and they heard a splash of water, those bones would be separated. And wouldn't, I mean, if the bones aren't separated, there's tissue and all kinds of stuff connecting them. So, yeah, it's weird that the one gender identifying bone that we can't have, that Zellner isn't allowed to test, disappeared. It's just the perception. Perception's all that we got to have. We've only got to convince the jury that, you know, this tibia is a female Halbach. Then nobody had to die. And yet, you'll never prove it wasn't a murder. It's the unsolvable murder. Guaranteed to keep 2 men wrongfully convicted for life. So do some thinking on that. Sucks as well, MBD's interview. Maribel Sock and Corey Sock were most likely the same. Yeah, they reroute all kinds of evidence. They're just basically trying to build a story that they can sell to the public, whatever it is that it takes to justify locking the two up. It's like there's a chip on the shoulder. And Stephen said it right off the bat in one of his interviews in Cribitz when they were like, you know, you've been saying that you're being set up, you're being framed. They've now found the RAV4 on your property. What do you have to say about that? And, you know, not to quote him, but to paraphrase what I remember him saying, Boy, I'm popular today. I should have shut this off. How do I ignore it? Okay, sorry about that, guys. I lost my train of thought because of that. Totally lost my train of thought. We'll just pretend I wasn't talking, which I always talk. I talk all the time. I talk too much. Kevin says maybe Pervy King Kratz wanted them. Think you're talking about the panties? Yeah. You know, if anybody fits the disgusting searches on those computers, it's King Kratz, you guys. And how hard when they're swapping crap around and evidence would it have been for King Kratz to switch out his own hard drive on the evidence table itself. Hard drives look like a piece of machinery. Do you ever pull a cassette deck out of a car, take the face off of it, and it's just a metal box type thing? That's basically a hard drive. I'm not sure that anybody would recognize a quick swap. So the IEP match is over at Brendan Dassey, perhaps. Was that very checked? Or is it kind of like the VIN number of the RAV4? Is that a mystery too? I would very much like to see if that IP matched the Dassey residence. If it does, that would secure a lot more understanding of why Zellner is pointing to the star witness as being a suspect. Abby, they just wanted him no matter what. He was going down for anything and everything. And they set him up before Ashira, saying, yes, they set him up way before the 31st. I'm with you, Ashira. I do. I really believe that. I believe that's why Sherry Culhane took a year before she released the computer results that would exonerate him. I think that was her stall tactic into telling her boys, hey, you guys have a year to accomplish this. Excuse me, I drank wrong. Being green, or use some of Christine Rudy's bones. Yeah, you could have got the pelvic bone from Christine Rudy. Well, no, because the bones wouldn't have been out until March for Christine Rudy, so that probably wouldn't have worked. Christine Rudy's body was found during the thaw in the Cobain River next to Eau Claire, or the Chippewa Falls Valley. And so I don't really suspect that her bones would have been used, because they wouldn't have had access to them. At least the torso. Could they have used arm or a leg bone? I'm not sure. It was never clear what was found in Sean Rudy's mother's burn pit behind her garage. Yes, you heard me correct. They used the same scenario that was in Sean Rudy's case. They've used that same scenario and overlaid it on the Stephen Avery case, in my opinion, because the garage is laid out to the same place to the trailer. And I do have a Christine Rudy video where you can actually look at that layout. The trailer is long ways, and then the garage is there, and then the burn pit was supposedly behind it. Sean Rudy supposedly dismantled or dismembered Christine's pregnant body in the garage with his girlfriend, Christine Rudy being his wife, and his girlfriend dismembered the body and then tried to burn it in the backyard. But the complication was that the same expert, and I say expert lightly, Leslie Eisenberg, who was working on the Christine Rudy and the Teresa Halbach case, made a grave error. Literally. She announced that the baby bird bones that were in Sean Rudy's mother's grave, or burn pit, were the fetus cut out of the mother when it turned out to be the baby bird. So this, it discredited Eisenberg's word, and in a big, big way. Because then it literally was that she couldn't tell human bones from bird bones. Then she's called up to testify if they're human bones or not in the Avery case, and she won't walk in. So, you got to kind of wonder, did they use, well, no, they used her lack of self-esteem and belief and confidence, her lack of confidence in her own ability. They used that 100%, King Kratz did, while she was on trial during the Steve Avery case, because she would not lock in. Suspected human bones, possible human bones. She used every adjective she could to avoid saying they were human or not. What's interesting is there was another anthropologist that preceded her, and that was Dr. Bennett. And he looked at the bones prior to Leslie Eisenberg, and he locked in and said the pelvic bone is a human female pelvic bone. Guess who they didn't hire for court? Dr. Bennett. So, okay, let's get back over here so I don't miss something. Jamie Van Hoot says 7 cops were being charged out of their own pockets for Avery's first wrongful conviction. Exactly. That would have really divvied up to a lot of debt that they couldn't have afforded, I guarantee you. Abby says, I have never seen electronics burnt like this. No way did they separate this way. It would have been one big mess with the plastic being burnt. Well, and we have pop cans that still have the writing on them in this extreme heat that supposedly calcined and disintegrated teeth. It doesn't work that way. Abby says, completely off the subject, but what month was you born? I was born in May. I'm a Gemini. Chloe, I missed the beginning of the live. What? Okay, does RD now think she may be alive? It's possible. There is absolutely no proof of death. I still say this. But at the same time, I can't imagine them leaving her alive. So at this point, I'm going to turn and blow my nose real quick. I'm left with a conundrum. She can't be alive and she can't be dead. And she can't be alive in my mind because it would be risking so many people's lives. By now, when Ma'am came out, I would have thought they would have just 86'd her right then and there for fear that something would blow up in their face and all these people would go down. So that's too risky. And in a sense, I'm not sure she can be dead either because we have so much identity bull crap in question and timing and the story's all staged. So now I'm like, I find out that her voicemail had not been checked and didn't get started getting checked until September. She didn't start Auto Trader until September. Tom Pierce talks about her knowing that she was going to be done at her job and blah, 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 blah. I'm looking at an Adam's apple. I'm looking at all kinds of weird pictures, and I'm starting to think to myself, is this whole event staged? Did they basically grab a tibia that would have tested out genetically for biological evidence from Terry Halbach? And did they just use the perception, knowing that they were going to get rid of the pelvic bone from a female? And it doesn't have to be Carmen Butler. It could be any female. But at this point, they can't really just go grabbing pelvic bones out of places. And Carmen just got cremated. Michael Bushman's on the scene. I'm just saying, what connection is there? It's starting to make me wonder. Did they create this scene and they've pulled it off and they staged it to fool us? Because I can't go with that she's still alive. Yet her social security number is still valid. There are cops that go undercover for 3 to 5 years. It's called deep state cover. Did this Teresa Halbach, is she deep cover for a couple of years or just a year? did that happen? Because the Hallbox, again, we know it. They are unattached emotionally to the event completely. They are in either mass denial, which they're not, because they're already talking about her in past tense when she's missing. It's like they're acting, and they're doing a crappy job of it. Aw, Abby. I was born May 27th. And why was KK on ASAY or Auto Salvage Yard during investigations? Martha Dickinson wants to know. Yeah. Why is he ordering Subway at a missing girls event? Why is Teresa Halbach missing so important compared to other victims that are pregnant, like Christine Rudy? Why is it treated like, the whole community, the whole law enforcement of every kind showed up? Get every state trooper you can literally get here. Get dogs, get scent dogs, get cadaver dogs. Get the flyover ready. Make this, national news and blow it out the horn and make this so sensational. Wouldn't that have been a flop if she just walked out of Walmart at 10 o'clock at night and said, I was buying shoes? It's like they knew they could bank on it, that she was gone, and that they could make a big deal out of it. They knew that. Because how embarrassing would it have been if while they were looking for this Teresa Halbach, she showed up, like Jamie Close did, 80 days later, absolutely fine, physically, not fine. You get what I'm saying. And these investigators had already had a murder trial and treated it as a murder instead of actually finding the girl. Yet they would have been in so much trouble because they wasted all their resources on a dead girl instead of a live girl, which would have, how would that have helped her be found? And yet they didn't investigate Christine Rudy's murder until months later. So they were banking on it. It was a guarantee at that moment when Ken Kratz stepped on that property. They knew she was dead, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's too high profile to have risked them looking stupid and have accused or backed the idea of accusations against Stephen during a wrongful conviction lawsuit to even portray Stephen in a poor light unless they knew for a fact he was going down for it. Which means they had a guarantee of some sort, but they weren't going to look foolish. Kevin says, Rubber Ducky, are you from Wisconsin? Must be pretty scary living with the corrupt law system. Kevin, it's horrifying. And I talk to the locals. They're scared and they get mad a lot because they're like, this is not a game. We are scared for our lives. We need absolute commitment from the truthers to continue to back us and not get distracted, because it takes complete focus to protect them. And if they're coming forward one by one, they've got to know that we're a platform that is going to bust it out. We're going to bust a move, get their word out there so that they're in the light. That's why Brendan and Stephen are okay, because nothing can touch them. It would be world news right now, and we'd know where to look. It don't matter. We would know. And it would be riots. There's no way. And that's what the truthers need, to come together and realize that we have power. And, the guilters are loving the fact that there's a handful of individuals that are arguing over credit. No, there's no room for ego. Get over it. Flush it. Ain't worth it. there's only two, there's only victim faces here. There's no room for our faces. That's the truth. Yeah, Bean Green says, yeah, the only bones in Avery's burn pit were probably meat bones. I've always said I think it's their extra dinner that they threw out Bear. That's why you see the chicken bone. Because they get done with supper, just like Southern families, which I'm from. You scrape all your dinner fixings into one big pot. You go out there, you dump it. Got the ham bone, you get the chicken bone, you get a little pork steak bone, whatever. The dog eats it, and they bury the bones, and then it rains, and they wash up. And I think that's all they really have there. Yeah, and the fact that the teeth are missing. All the teeth are missing. We have a root of a tooth, partial root. That only says it could be a hawk. We have no idea. That dentist, Dr. Smiley. I mean, is it real? Is this case real? Dr. Smiley. I'm just like, I. Yes, Martha, supposedly she recently changed phone carriers in September, and so her voicemail had just been activated then. There are no prior transmissions to Auto Traders that can be found, according to what I read, prior to September as well. It was like the whole thing centered around September. Her car registration. Her identity seems to, like, come into placement in September, and boom, October, she's missing. Have any of you looked or been able to find her in a school annual? Go to Hilbert. No annuals in the library. I've had locals go. There's no school annuals of Hilbert High that I can find. And I'm not saying it's not there. I just wouldn't want to see her in every single grade she was in. We're given the same haircut and the same pictures over and over again. All the years, 8 years, and this girl doesn't change her hairstyle. It's strange. Half her photos look very photoshopped. There's ones where her shirt is so large on her that she looks like she's got a stick neck because the collar is so wide, and her body looks all pumped out, like 4 times bigger than she is. But her face is the same smile and the same hairdo. I'm just saying. Are a lot of these photos photoshopped? Why does she have such a large Adam apple in them? Are they just messing with us? Did they plan this event and fabricate all evidence to imply a murder took place when there wasn't one? Is that why the case can't be solved? And do they just build the case every day by sending us FOIA documents to keep us down another rabbit hole that's endless because they know that there is no victim, really? I mean, I'm just asking. These are the places when I can't prove she's dead and I can't prove she's alive after 5 years. I now challenge. Prove she exists, because I'm having a hard time with this. You can bring me in the little soccer girls or the volleyball girls. Yeah. How long did she do that? Maximum a year? A semester? So what? How many events was she a part of in school? Why don't we see family pictures of her as a kid? Why the world don't the Hallbox respond? Why are there no tears? Not one tear. Not one tear? Your daughter, your sister, your beloved one is dismembered, supposedly, allegedly cut into pieces, raped, stabbed, all this, and you don't get a sad moment that you can't control that one tear. When Karen Hallbach's tissue fell to the ground in court, after all day patting her eyes, it floated dry as a bone to the ground. Really? We got to wake up. What's really going on with the case? Abby says, I have thought the same thing many times, that she is not dead. I don't think she is in the USA. I always thought she was in New Zealand, only because she fell in love with the place. Yeah. Oh, Gloria, I love it. Making up a murderer. Yeah, that's what I'm asking. You know, identity theft is big thing. It came about in 2005, really. And what it is the criminal would not only steal people's identity, they would build a fake identity using a fake face, fake computer generated stuff, build a little life around that so that they had a credit rating and so forth, and fake an identity. Well, how much did they want to avoid? 36 million. And what were the kickbacks for everybody? A lot of people got promotions. You know, think about how many people got promotions in law enforcement. Think about who got sheriff. Wiegert, look what he did to Brendan, and he got sheriff. He got king of the hill position. And if you really think about, like, what did the family get? Well, it's been rumored and alleged that they got a huge farm grant. We do know that Tim Halbach went straight out of college into one of the biggest law firms that was attached directly to and working with the Attorney General of Wisconsin. Mike Halbach went from being a videographer working for sports to working for the Green Bay Packers as their top video person and crisis management for the team. So he was promoted. So why are all these people promoted? What did they do that warranted such badges of approval? Did they pull off a huge scam? It's kind of funny when you look at some of the things that people do, like Mike walking out of the courtroom and that camera catching him and he's doing that evil and he's got that weird smile to go with it. It's a duping delight that they can't help. He knows more, there's no doubt, because of that. You're hearing my pug snore in the background, I assure you. Lori says, 36 million red flags that come to my mind while thinking of this murder case. Far too many coincidences involved. I agree 100%. Yeah, and Abby's got it nailed right here. She says, I think the problem back in 2005, no one knew that the internet would blow up like this. Now we nearly all the access, and they will be found out. There will be something that catches them. You're right. You are 100% right. Yes, Gloria, Dr. Smiley, the dentist, yeah. Kevin, no one can dare walk out on their own because they're an easy target. You all better go out. You better, so be careful with you opposing them. They might be planning your trial. Yeah, it's scary, you know. I've never done anything criminally wrong in my life, and I have no charges, so I would immediately be like, you know, go on YouTube and tell everybody I've been framed. I mean, seriously, it's ridiculous. So, but they've got far bigger fishes to worry about than some little YouTuber here. I don't recommend doing anything physically or anything like that. I think we should back Selner, and I think we should keep bringing the public awareness every day. I do see so many tweets and Reddits and amazing researchers digging into this case that there's no doubt the truth is going to come out. I have complete faith in all of you. Lynette Wilson says about the school book. That is the same for me. We can't find a friend from school, and you can't find out yearbooks online. You can't find the yearbooks at all. I have a friend of mine that's local that lives there and went to Hilbert Library, and the yearbooks have all been pulled for those years. Another identity issue. Eamon says the TH family should be made to take a lie detector test. Kimberly says, have you looked into the dairy farm theory? I sure have. I find it interesting that Richard Halbach died mysteriously in Florida, and at 31, and it's locked up and sealed. There's no way to find out information. I find it interesting that Karen Halbach then married his brother. It just seems, it's like somebody wrote this murder mystery whodunit, and they were so proud of it that they had pulled it off, not understanding the internet was going to be a big deal. They went ahead and let them film the event to almost make it famous in its right, to show how well they had pulled off an event of wrongful conviction. And then the internet backfired and exploded on them, and we're starting to learn that the pictures are photoshopped, that the evidence is tampered and swapped and switched, that it's not really the DNA of Teresa Halbach from her blood or bone on the bullet, but just placed DNA on the bullet, that there was no blood in the RAV until it reached the crime lab, for God's sakes. It's all coming out, and we're going to have to accept, we used to have to look at it and we were like, is it possible? Is it even remotely possible that maybe there could be a bad cop and maybe he kind of did all this? Now we're like, how many of them? So our awareness, our waking up is happening. We're starting to understand the people that were being depositioned must have had a hand in this event, because it seems to be staged, and that takes planning. I'm just saying, call me a conspiracy theorist. That's nothing more than two people believing in something that more than one person took place in. And I guarantee you, more than one person took place in that 1985 conviction of Steve Avery. And that's a conspiracy theory that's absolutely proven true, with the depositions almost writing him a $36 million check. So, yeah, you can argue on the amount. Maybe it was only $8 million, $4 million, you name it. It was still a chip on the block of an ego being hit. That's what I believe happened. I believe Kosurik had an ego. We have to look at, how did he get to be sheriff, and what was his stake in the ground that made him top dog? It wasn't just getting elected. It was that he had arrested the guy that had threatened the law enforcement, and he put a stake in the ground, and that meant his identity went with somewhat that stake in the ground when Stephen was arrested for running Sandra Morris off the road. So Kosurik put a personal stake in the ground right there. So he had more to lose with his name in front of his guys. And I believe it was a personal vendetta, a true chip on the shoulder. And, I said on Twitter today, I said, what happens when, basically, I'll paraphrase here, you have the mad dog as the top dog versus the junkyard dog. He thinks he's better, and he's gonna, as Stephen said, and as Pa said, Pa Avery, he said he was gonna get him no matter what. He said no matter what it took, he was gonna get Steve Avery. That's a vendetta. That's a personal promise, Yeah. Bean Green says, if this was a movie, it'd be too far-fetched. Yeah, it'd be a hokey pokey. Too many people don't recall. You're right, Miss Piggy. Yes, Peterson was depositioned. Kusurek and Vogel, the top dogs, were not. Peterson was the last deposition with Couché. Couché, I want you guys to go and watch the deposition of Couché. He says some things in there that are very telling, and then he's dead. So he was having a problem with tact, and he was being very straightforward in the deposition that put poor lighting on Kusurek. And then Couché's dead. Heart attack. Poof. Sean nailed it. In Wisconsin, all roads lead to Kusurek. You know, I find it interesting. I'm going to throw this out there too, you know, because my mind goes 1,000 different ways. And, you know, who am I? Nothing but a housewife here and work. But, yeah, I put in 156 hours in 2 weeks. So forgive me if I'm getting a little goofy here. I haven't had much sleep. But I find it interesting that the Sikiki note has 2 K's in it, and Kusurek starts and ends with K. Just saying. Abby says, something is not right. Wife of stepdad dies. Dad dies, then mother and stepdad get married. This all happened in 4-year span. Then Teresa has a trust fund set up and then goes missing. Missy, it's all about the money, Miss Piggy says. Bean Green says, probably scared to recall anything in case they're next to disappear. Okay, I've got to take my time to read this name. Air KQQLED Air cooled. Okay, I think I figured it out. Air cooled accountability. Love what you're doing. Thank you. Sean says there is big money in government farm schemes. Teresa was next to inherit the farm. Consider it. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Who bought the farm? You know the old saying? That meant you died. Because that was the old school way of gaining the inheritance. I mean, if you're the prince and the king becomes ill and dies, and you're becoming the king, you can be 3 weeks old, and you're still targeted for the money, the power. Darkside brings up a really good point. She's talking about Jean Couché, and in that deposition I ask you to watch, he goes into a spiel about the DNA and how it can be fabricated. And he's very confident in it. Now, Couché had FBI direct connections. And that's not conspiracy, that's fact. For a chief detective of his level to confidently state that he does not trust DNA because it can be fabricated, that's a red flag for all of us right there. And that was these depositions, keep in mind when they were happening. They were before the tampering of the evidence that we see now. The depositions preceded Teresa Halbach going missing. So you have Jean Couché talking about how confidently talking about fabrication of DNA and the results that can be used to frame people before we have the Rev 4 with Steve Avery's blood in it. Miss Peggy says, too many coincidences. Sean says, I have had more thoughts about the woman with Earl. Oh. Yes, Sean. Candy Avery? Or Countess? The Countess. You'll have to give me a tip on that one. Grandma Jones says, has any corrupt county ever been exposed in Wisconsin or the United States is my wonder. Yeah, you guys. Has there ever been a community exposed of conspiracy to corruptly? I mean, we've seen TV shows of it, like Avery and other things, but has there really ever been a county or a town that has been caught for conspiring, how do I even say it? Conspiring against individuals to conform them or whatever? I don't know. Candy Avery's a big player in this, and I don't think many people really take an interest into how hard Earl and Candy Avery worked at convicting Stephen Avery of more than just Teresa Halbach's murder. They also worked very diligently at proving to the investigators that Stephen Avery was a sexual predator preying on young girls. And they worked very hard at it. When the evidence was to be produced, Candy Avery claimed it all disappeared. Just poof, gone. She couldn't find any of it. Yeah, oh, Sean's talking about Ed Edwards. So, yeah. Okay. Explain to me, Sean, what you're talking about. So, years ago and many, many years, we've heard about Ed Edwards. And then I was sent a link about a month and a half ago. And I read it. And it was supposedly back in it was from 2005, where some guy had went online in a chat group, and he had started to post things about the murder of Lacey Patterson. And in his postings of Lacey Patterson, he began to threaten that he had done this, that he had framed the husband for it, and that he was going to do it again, that he was going to frame somebody, and so it got suspected that it was Ed Edwards. So anyway, this person that posted these claims did over 120 days, I believe, of posting, and they started the month of Teresa Halbach's birth date. So they started March, I think the 20th or 22nd, and they go all the way up till the October 30th, 2005. He explains he's about to do it again, where he murders and frames or whatever. And he puts this code on there. And I guess this code has been looked at by a lot of scholars. And one of the clues, the riddle that goes with it, is something along the lines of, you'll know more by the woman with the man named Earl. And I think a lot of people that were thinking that this had to do with the Halbach case were thinking of Earl Avery. But I was talking to Sean and I about this in a group of us on Twitter in private. And Sean looked up the word Earl, and the opposite of Earl, the woman with Earl, is actually Countess. Well, that's interesting because I ignored the coding and I just started counting digits in the coding, and the coding starts actually, keys start coming up. I get 4321, 4321 consecutively without anything in between. So it kind of told me we were on to something. So that's something, if you want to hear more on, let me know. And we can do more lives regarding that. I'm not saying it's Ed Edwards. Could be a copycat, could be a red herring, could be a lot of things. But I am saying that I started cracking this code, and I am starting to actually understand the code work itself. There are dates in there that refer to the date that Jimmy Glass was executed. What's interesting is this poster had talked about a man of glass, and then to find out that some of the hidden dates in the coding, that when I got done with the decoding, had Jimmy Glass's execution dates, and I look up Jimmy Glass, and he's a notorious serial killer. You know, I'm like, what is going on? So there's a lot more on that I want to understand before I'm really, I guess, able to commit to a whole conversation publicly on it. But we are digging in a little bit as to what's going on with that. The things that precede the 31st, the day before, in the postings are disturbing, because it talks about the back of her car and things in this posting that do fit the Halbach case. So it's very strange. If anybody's interested, just basically email me at rubberducky2005@yahoo.com, and I will try to share the link with you, and you can look at the code, try to crack the code. I can give you what I'm doing to crack the code. You'll be able to crack part of it yourself, and maybe your fresh eyes will, send us on more information. Abby said swab. Didn't Steve say they did groin swab, but they said wasn't needed, meant to throw away, but that was where the sweat DNA would have come from. Sweat is non-conclusive, but groin swab would have DNA, and strong DNA. Super Mario Maker says Flint was involved in massive corruption. Okay. Flint. Super Mario, can you elaborate a little bit who Flint is? Abby. My memory is just good when it comes to Avery case. I can't remember where I even put my hairbrush half the time. Thank you, Miss Piggy. If you're interested in the information, or if you guys want to know more about what we've been working on with that code, just let us know, because we can I can break down some of what I'm finding, and maybe the fresh eyes will help. But a lot of people don't want to even consider Ed Edwards because he was old. But face it, at 72, some people's grandpas are still out there chopping wood. Yes, in 2000, I think it was 10, by then he's on oxygen. But what was he doing 5 years earlier? Honestly. Just because somebody's on oxygen and looking old and feeble in 2005, that can happen in a matter of months with heart disease or anything else. We don't know what his condition was in 2005. He has a lot to do with the number 888, and there are some significant primary coding, so prime number coding in this that I've cracked. There's repetitive 333, 444 in certain patterns, so I'm looking for a code expert as well as someone good in Morse code, because Ed Edwards was into flashlights and Morse code, and he literally would leave flashlights with his victims quite often. And I'm kind of touching into it to see if it opens up information on other cold cases, because it may be totally unrelated to the Halbach case, but there is something in that coding that has my attention right now. So if you want to know more, just let me know. Hi, Jennifer. Well, you'll be able to watch this again, because I'll upload it for now, Jennifer. But yeah, I'm nearing the end of it, love. I'm sorry. I've been working so many days. I worked 17 days in a row. I had 154 hours on this last check or something. So I'm worn out, but I wanted to hang out with you guys a little bit. My spare time, I've been working on the No Crime, No Time community. And that is a website that's dedicated to us spreading the truth, sharing court documents, and so forth, which is very much like our YouTube community, which has been wonderful. We really don't have problems like others on our YouTube community, and all points of view is respected, no matter how crazy they sound. Hell, some of the craziest things have been true in life. So at this point, we listen and give respect to whoever's opinion it is, even if it's different than my own. I'm interested in their point of view. So yeah, it's just random chatting. I just wanted to play catch up. Like I said, I missed you all a lot. All right. Okay, guys, it is 3 o'clock and it's been 2 hours, and so I'm going to get off here. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me just grab this. I just want to look. Oh, so looking at my notes, because I wanted to make sure I covered everything that I want to talk about. The last thing I want to say is that as we go forward in 2020, that means clear vision, clear thought, and that's what we've got to have. We've got to have absolute focus in this case. Not just in this case, but in life. We need to wake up, America. No more corruption, no more wrongful death, no more death penalty. Find your compassion, love one another, treat each other kindly. Who cares who found what? It was online one point, or you didn't find it, unless you're like one of the locals that actually gets out there and does their thing and goes to the books. If you found it online, it was public information, and it's not right to lock it up. So, otherwise, you can face Brendan Dassey and explain to him how you didn't get credit, and so therefore you're going to withhold information. That's not the way to do it. And to spend time bickering on who found what, that's silly. Stop it. We're here to stick together. And I love you guys all. Much love. And you all do a fantastic job. I'm no more able to solve this than you are or anybody else without each other. We have to all work together. And that's one thing we're awesome at. We're an amazing group. I don't know that any other movement has had the amount of focus. And I don't mean just attention. I mean our focus is beelined to getting these guys home. And the rabbit holes that we go down all still go to Cuss Road. So let's dig deep. Let's find out what this whole thing really happened. We've got 2020, clear vision. This is the year we find out what happened. This is the year we dig it out. I'm going to stay stuck on Terry Halbach's bones and Carmen Botwell's pelvic bone for now, because of the fact that I can't lock in if she's alive or dead. I'm starting to question if she's real. I don't know if you're with me, but somebody start showing me like a lifetime of legacy of this individual, not just the last 2 years. Like, yeah, you can show me 2002, you can show me 2003, 2004, but where's all her, like, I was good at school, I was in the newspaper. My kid isn't even that important in school. He's like a C student, my kids. And every time I turn around, they're in the local paper for stuff. There are no local paper things of her in the paper anywhere. I just don't get that. I don't get why, like, her phone gets registered. Her voicemail starts being checked. Her license plate gets registered. Her job starts. She actually gets her RAV. It's all in 2002, 2003. And she starts managing the volleyball team, and it doesn't make sense to me that it's like she's created out of the blue at that time frame, and the family's not even connected emotionally to the situation in any way. There's no red eyes. So, all right, guys, love you very much, and stay tuned. Middle of February, we're going to get the library going, which will be attached to the No Crime, No Time community. It has the most amazing, and this is where I've spent most of my time, is the case file sharing, which is incredible. It shares all the legal documents that are out there for cases on those that are wrongfully convicted. So it's like Stephen, Avery, Brendan, Dassey, Rodney Reed, Darlie Routier, all kinds of cases. It even goes into corruption, covered up crimes. So it goes into the Skinner case. And the members can actually create their own file heading. So if you're a Daniel Holzclaw, I'm not sure I said his name right. If you're one of his supporters and you want to create a file as a member, you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to set it up so other members can add to the court documents, so that we have this immense file sharing. We also have picture sharing as well, and swapping. There is all kinds of good stuff coming. It's taking a little longer, but it is looking incredible, like very, very professional. And so that's coming out in February. Hopefully we hit our goal, which is, my goal is to have it out by the 21st of February. And at that point, we'll be switching gears from YouTube over to there. And it's very much like this. You'll have the chat section to be able to type in, and we can do lives there as well, so we don't lose anything except for advertisement all over the place. We won't have to deal with that. All right. If you didn't do the crime, you shouldn't do the time. Peace out. Love you all.